Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today I'll talk about what I've learned so far in Season 6 of Torchlight Infinite. Now, this league has been a rough one so far, and if you feel like you're overwhelmed by the game and how hard it is to get into higher tiers, you're not the only one. Even some of the sweatiest people I know have not even touched the highest tiers. So you are in good company, just so you know, but the bitching will be for a different video. This will basically be completely just to get you kind of up to speed and get you to 8 zeros, because one thing you need to understand about this game, especially if you've played it in the past, is the fun starts at 8-0, which honestly is very, very delayed. So 8 zeros are basically the time mark. So as you can see, 1 to 7, that's sort of like after campaign, the kind of tutorial. And then once you get to tier 8, which is a lot harder than 7s, you will be greeted with actual drops, and it's going to feel almost like current seasons. Past seasons is what I meant to say. But in general, that is a big goal for you. The first big goal is getting to 7. Then you can kind of start making crumbs. And then tier 8 is going to be everything. And I'm going to show you 3 different strats on how you can get there. But first up, we have to talk about kind of how you even get to tier 7. Because especially if you're new to the game, that might already be overwhelming. Now, the first part is play a good build. You might have noticed that I usually post my Torchlight League starter around about this time before I go into farming strats. But this time around, I'm going to do it the other way around, and I'm probably not even going to post a build guide for a very distinct reason. The way they balance the game this season, you are not going to do very well unless you play an S or maybe A tier build. The build I played is not very forgiving early. I knew it would pop off later, which it did, but it was kind of a slow start. So what I would highly recommend you do is you go to build guides and you kind of look at this. So there are also tier lists and everything. But what I would recommend is, first up, both Yugas are very strong. If you don't know, all the heroes other than the new hero are free this league. So you don't have to pay anything. Yuga Spacetime Elapse, very strong. Yuga Spacetime Illusion, very strong. In terms of gemmas, everything other than Ice Fire Fusion, very strong. Flame of Pleasure, Frostbitten Heart. And then obviously Selena, also very good. But in general, they are trying to give you a full rundown. Now, this will only last through the campaign, so we will have to get a lot of context. You will have to maybe look at streams. You will maybe have to scour YouTube for some kind of information. The reason most people do not make endgame guides about this game is because there is zero chance to make any evergreen content, because everything is constantly and rapidly changing. So there's just no real avenue there to do anything, which is also one of the reasons I'm not going to post mine, simply because I would consider it a B tier build, and since this league is so goddamn hard, I feel like it would be more deception than anything else. And if you haven't seen it already, I will link the max roll branch down below in the description. The second thing is use crafting. You don't have much else. The thing that you are going to get showered with early is Flame Sand. What you have to understand is there is no reason to hold onto your Flame Sand, because the way they balanced it for some reason is Flame Sand is completely worthless in endgame. If you price check right now, 1,000 Flame Sand go for 1 FE. So if you're thinking about, oh, I might hold on to this for later, throw it all out of the window. Craft as much as you can. Get as strong as you can. That's all it is about. If you look at this here, there's an endgame item, right? For example, this one is, what is the item level? 87, right? Select. You will see here that it costs FEs, right, to craft, and it costs precious embers. Flame Sand, completely worthless. This is basically Flame Sand here and other types of embers early on. So just throw them out of the window and make yourself as strong as possible. Craft on every possible occasion that you can. There are a few things on your ways that you are going to find, though, that are worth FEs and that you can sell on the trade house. The first one is Elixir of Oblivions. You get these quite early. Especially check certain rewards from the free battle pass or from other ways. I don't exactly know where they're all coming from, but there's like chests here. For example, this one right here, right? Some of them have these in there. And funnily enough, it's actually pretty damn rough to get these Orb of Regrets, basically, is what they are, on the market right now. So they are worth like 0.4 each, and you sometimes get like boxes with like 8 or something of them. So whenever you have them, do not use them for respecking until level 90. You can respec for free anyways. Sell them. Same goes for certain embers, and even if you say, oh, they're not worth that much per se, I can maybe get like 1 or 2 FE. That 1 or 2 FE can completely change the game. Also, definitely focus on your weapon whenever you're crafting. Your weapon is a ton of your damage. And the last one here is make as little mistakes as possible, unless you play a really good build. If you want to play your own concoction, understand how your build scales. This is not really the game anymore where you can just do whatever you want. It's now a little bit more similar to PoE, where you might actually need guidance a lot more. It is what it is, but yeah, I can't really say much more for tier 1 to tier 6. I really hope you get through here, because if you get to tier 7, that's where the fun kind of starts. Now, okay, you made it to Timemark 7, and now is where hopefully you can start making some FE. The star chart up here is going to be very important at this point. Remove some points. You should have a decent amount of points. If you do not, a lot of the points you now get is actually from the path of progression up here, which we're going to talk about at the end a little bit as well in the general, but definitely check in here whenever there's like an exclamation mark or something like that. So what are you supposed to do here? The thing you need to understand about tier 7s is you're not going to drop a lot of raw FE. So you actually need to make money outside of just general drops. This is actually something that happened in PoE as well, right? Magic and normal monsters just don't drop that much stuff. You have to kind of add that somehow. They did buff the FE drop rate a little bit over the last few days. It was quite ridiculous. You're basically never going to see one, or now very rarely, but still sometimes. But basically, you're going to force it. And the two big money makers here are either City of Eterna or my personal favorite. You can do both. My personal favorite is Mistville. What you are going to get from Mistville are these resident eyes right here, and you can get quite a few of them. And they kind of hover between 0.6 to sometimes 0.8 or 0.9, depending on how much people are grinding. This is basically the currency that you need to do Mistville yourself, but you can sell them to other players. And these drop quite frequently from certain monsters. And just to show you this real quickly, this here on the minimap is the icon for the monsters that drop these eyes. If you take all the points, they can also be duplicated, and both can drop eyes. Now, don't get discouraged. You're not going to drop an eye every single time. That's just part of getting through 7 zeros. There's not that many lucrative methods to make money. Other than this tree, which you're going to fill completely out, you are also going to take some nodes in this tree right here. Now, in terms of priority, if you don't have enough Atlas passive points, which could be, right, to fill these out, the first thing you want to take is all these Ember nodes. Embers are incredibly good money. The precious Embers that are dropping quite frequently are like 5 to 1 FE. So they are incredible. And these nodes here give you extra chance to replicate them and extra chance to drop them from the boss. And since your maps are going to be quite fast, there's that. The most important thing about this first strat is that you ignore most monsters. Like, you can run through them, you want to kill them because you want to get XP, but if there's a tanky rare or something, you don't have to engage with it. It's not going to drop anything. The new balancing is basically, I mean, it's like, we're not going to keep it for a different video, but just ignore them. They don't exist. It's fluff, right? Just keep moving. Okay. After that, you get the Netherrealm Resonance. These are pretty damn strong. And then also energy cores. These are all mostly for your usage because you're going to need them yourself. With Netherrealm Resonance, you can basically buy tier 7s here at the vendor for, I think, 8 each. If you scroll down here, you can buy Timemark 7 stuff. And should you ever have too many, you can also check here. 11 of these actually sell for 1 FE and they drop quite frequently. Now, one thing I also forgot, which is actually a really good source of money, are these star shards. You're going to get them from Timemark 7. And if you look at them, they actually sell quite decently. The reason they are worth usually more than you can actually use them for, so if you do the boss, you're probably going to lose money, is mainly because other people use them in 7.2, which we're going to go over in a second, where the bosses drop more. They're all the same star shards. This is basically what you get at the end of a map, and 8 of these you can face a boss. So if you look at the middle right here, you can see in the middle this 0 out of 8. This means I have 0 of these star shards. And if I had 8, it was 8 out of 8, and I can click and fight the boss. If you don't want to, you should definitely sell those, and they're going to be quite a bit of your money. So once again, completing the maps as fast as possible is going to make you a ton of FE. Now, let's say you made it. Let's say you can actually run Timemark 7.2, which is down here. You can see 7.0. This is where you start off once you get to Timemark 7. And then 7.2 is what you get over time. This is where some things change. Obviously, your quantity goes up. Your chance for bosses to have better stuff goes up. But the biggest thing that happens is bosses drop 2 tier 8 beacons. Tier 8 beacons are worth quite a bit. There are, as of this recording, around about 3 to 4 FE each. So getting 2 of those means that the boss, besides any lucky drops, is at baseline with the beginning that it drops, worth around about 8 FE. And this is where you start to actually get into the end game and where you're gonna start to afford stuff. So let's talk about this real quick. This means that nothing else in the game matters. The way they balanced it, the FE drops are pretty shit. Completely ignore monsters. Monsters, you can kill them once again for XP, but do not think that doing any mechanic is going to do you any good. It's just going to slow you down. And I mean everything here, even the league mechanic, which we're going to talk about a little bit once we get into 8.0, where the league mechanic really shines with the paint and stuff. But for now, I would literally disregard all of that. It's not a fun way to do it. You can have as much fun as you want if you want to do everything a little bit. I'm just telling you what's going to make you the most flame elementium so you can gear up your character and later have fun if you want to, but you don't have to. One other problem with doing the league mechanic early in these tiers is that you pay 100 of these. What will happen if you actually save it up is once you get to tier 8s, now these cost 200, which is very steep. But once you get to orange snow paper, it is ridiculous how much loot all of a sudden you're going to drop. I'm talking 50 to 100 FE per run, whereas here you can maybe get some scraps, maybe get like 1 or 2 FE. Relative to how much time you spend, I would completely ignore the league mechanic for now. Now, another important thing here is you can completely ignore trade cards. Since there's almost nothing dropping in 7.0s that is worth it for people, that also means that these trade cards are kind of worthless. So if you look at this right here, right? You're going to see stuff like 30% rarity, stuff that gives you extra, I don't know, like a bunch of BS basically that would make sense if it was still the last patch and stuff would drop something, but it doesn't. So what you should be doing is completely ignore it and focus the fastest layouts. So basically like in PoE where you would find, for example, Strand. You really like Strand. You only run Strand over and over. Do not get dissuaded by 100 additional drop quantity if you follow the cards in their layouts, because 2 times 0 is still 0. It does not matter at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm going to show you the best layouts for each region. Now, the reason I'm pointing out all these layouts is because you're not going to be able to sustain one of them. If you can't sustain one of them, the best ones is probably Thunder Wastes and Glacial Abyss. They basically have the same layout on one of their maps, and Blistering Lava is kind of good. After that, Steel Forge is pretty mediocre, and Voidlands is probably the worst. These are just my personal opinions, so you can copy them if you want to, but otherwise, just go with the flow. Now, the way you make your money is with bosses here. Every boss, like I said, is worth 2 beacons, so you want to complete this as fast as possible. You'll usually get 1 of these completions per kill, but you can also get more with the Atlas tree right here. Now, if you already managed to kill Traveler, you will make a lot more money because you will be able to fill this one in. In Netherrealm stages, you get a 30% chance to duplicate your progression towards the boss. So that is incredible. The downside here, -2 confusion cards, which are the cards that I said you should ignore, is completely irrelevant. So if you can somehow kill Traveler, oh boy, you're in for a treat. I'm just telling you right now. This one is going to be a big deal. But if you don't, you don't, right? So the most important notes here are these. 25% chance to replicate star shards, and then these small nodes on top. With this node right here, if you had the 30%, you always get 2 basically. With this, it's going to be like 70-ish% or something. So those are the most important nodes. All the other nodes are basically stuff that is on boss kill, X or Y or Z happens. So for example, on boss kill, chance to drop this. On boss kill, chance to drop Ember. On boss kill, chance to drop these energy cores. They really do add up, and you're probably going to need them to gear anyways, but if you have access, you can always sell them. You do not want the eyes anymore. So just so you know, there are different plans that you can do. You do not need to use your respec points. You can go from plan 1 that you just used to plan 2, for example. So eyes completely respect. You can still do them if you want to, but they're just not as good as some of the other nodes, in my personal opinion. And yeah, it's a struggle bus with eyes until you get to 7.2. I know that. So after you did all of this, you will start filling out some stuff in the beacon department right here. Now, if you can go up here, that's also fine, right? But most likely you will just go here. This makes it so you duplicate your beacons. Not a big deal. They're not worth as much, but basically the gist is if you drop your tier 7s yourself, you do not have to go to the trader and use your resonance to buy the maps, because endgame players want that resonance. Like I said, 11 of these is 1 FE. So that basically means if you have to use 8 to buy a tier 7, you almost lost an FE for 1 of these maps. You do not want to do that. So if you can, you want to sustain as much as possible. So that's why those notes are very strong. Now, you might think this strat is not that great, right? It's like 1 FE here, 1 FE there. But if you have a build that you like playing and you're just going to rush through to the boss, kill it over and over and over again, it's not the most exciting. I personally liked it, right? Mephisto runs or whatever. Cool. I actually enjoyed it, and I farmed up around about 700 to 800 FE this way. I bought the items that I needed to get to 8.0, and then we can start playing the game. Now, at the end, I will also have a segment where I talk about how much damage you need at which stage, in my opinion. But let's talk about 8-0. So, Timemark 8 gives you a ton of extra drop quantity. What I want you to understand is, this doesn't look that good because you're going to say, oh, 0 times 60% is also 0. Okay, but you have to understand that the level of the mobs is what determines most of the drops. So even though it doesn't seem like a big increment, every level that the mobs go up, they drop a lot more items. The scaling this league is really off the charts. I want you to understand how big of a difference this is. I went from probably making round about 70 to 80 FE before with a fast character to now round about 200, 300, or possibly more, right? That is basically what you can see in Timemark 8. Now, if you followed my advice and you didn't do a league mechanic, you're going to have a lot of shards and you're basically never going to run out of it, or not at any time soon. It took me, after I farmed it all up, it took me like 2 days to kind of catch up to the snow paper, so you can do a lot of league mechanic, and that's where a lot of your money lies. For now, I will link down below Milky BK's guide about the league mechanic. I will most likely make a video of my own, but that is a very good guide. For now, it does not fit into this video. Now, what else is important? A lot of people that have played in the past think that on their pets, they should be using XP or they should be using MF, right? Which is what I'm doing right now. But that's because I'm strong enough to do it. At the start, you will struggle to get into 8-0. You should be filling out everything with damage and res. That's what you should be doing. Mostly damage is going to be your biggest enemy. You need round about 200 million damage. Watch my last section for some general tips if you're freaking out about that number. But you need to get it everywhere you can. An 8-0 with no extra drop chance from your pets is infinitely better than a 7-2 with all the drop hits in the world. That is what you have to understand. So, if you need that push, go for it. Later, once you can, you definitely want to fill them out with some kind of drop hits, whatever you have. Also cool to note, FE now drops. Yay. So, if you're already dropping FE in 7-0s, chances are that when this video comes out, they have buffed it again because there have been like 4 emergency patches already or something because nobody could progress or make anything. So yeah, if stuff drops in 7-0, 7-1, 7-2s, I was not that lucky the first few days. Just understand that if it's bad in 7s, it's going to be a lot better in 8s. That doesn't mean that it's going to be raining. Sometimes you're going to get nothing. But what you have to understand is there's a lot of things that add up, right? Like embers, you're now dropping a lot more interesting items. So aside from the league mechanic, which you should be doing, by the way, if you can do orange snow paper, always do it. Even if it's a kind of a struggle, it's way, way better than purple. But other than that, what do you do with your Atlas points? So the league mechanic is probably at least half of your currency. If you don't do it, you are actually trolling. I'm just telling you right now. But otherwise, you're going to put your points into Nightmare. And this is basically all that you know of. The Dream Mist is basically this blue cloud that's around. If you find it, you want to stand in it and you either get a chest or an enemy or some random occurrence. It's very, very strong. But what you get as well is you get extra elite monsters, you get like extra lightning, and it's just incredibly strong. Now, I currently do not have the point for this one, but this is the last thing I'm going to kind of fill out. Nightmares are okay, but you generally do not need to min-max them if you don't know how it works. You want to have all these points so you have a 100% chance to actually get the Dream Lotus at the start, so you get the lead mechanic. This is very strong. If you do not know anything about this, I think I probably have an old video about this league mechanic. Other than that, I'm not doing too much. The first thing is, you're now in tier 8s. One big difference is monsters now drop loot, which is fantastic and probably a good idea for an RPG. I absolutely congratulate them to that decision. So you want to have extra magic mobs, you want to have extra rare mobs, and extra normal mobs. So you want to take all of this right here. The small nodes also give drop quantity, right? So other than that, there's embers here, which are still incredibly, incredibly strong, just so you know. If you're end game crafting, embers is basically your cap, and all the sweaty guys are buying them up in droves. Like I'm selling them in the thousands, right? Like 1,000 at a time for like 180 FE. Okay. So these are very strong. And then I also have a few beacon nodes left, mainly this chest right here. This chest is actually incredible. It has a very low chance to spawn. It will spawn every 30 to 40 maps roundabout. But if it spawns, you're going to drop like 8 to 10 tier 8 maps, which are 3 to 4 FE each. And then sometimes you even get deep space ones, which are worth even more. And you have all this chance for stuff to be replicated. And since you are now in Timemark 8, you can actually naturally drop Timemark 8 beacons, which then can get replicated. Now, really important for the 8-0 strat as well is the points that you put into the star shard stuff right here with the 30% extra chance is now pretty much not important. But what you want to do is you actually want to respec into something else. So you see, I already got all my 4 points because I cleared Traveler 8. These 2 points are kind of just like, there's nothing else I really want to do. But you want to put your 2 points that you have from Traveler 7 into Star Shards Do Not Drop, which at first sounds like a pretty big downside, right? That's like -1 FE per map roundabout. But basically your trade cards that are now actually going to be good are going to be rarer, which is quite a big deal. Besides the normal good stuff, since you are playing Nightmare, you have introduced a few cards that are extremely valuable. And I will show you these real quickly. So if you scroll down here, you can see all the cards that you can drop within it. And there's a few cards here that say percentage chance to drop additional Shallow Dream Talking. And there's also some Nightmare Omens, which are worth a lot. But these Shallow Dream Talking, what these are basically, they can give you an extra mod. So for example, you can see here, I have a pen on my weapon right here. That gives me a ton of extra damage. On my rings, I have a little bit of extra strength, those kind of things. And they come from these right here. Now, there's different ones for different types. There's body armor, which is worth a little bit less than an FE. There is the weapon ones, which are around about 2 FE per. You can see how many I'm stacking up here. There's the shallow ones, which are actually not tradable. And the ring ones, which are the ones that are worth the most because people are rolling for +1, mostly tenacity and focus, I think. So these are worth quite a bit. And if you get one of those cards, they start dropping like candy. I only have 9 of these because I already used them on mine. But these actually, if you get the card for 4 maps, they're just going to drop and drop and drop. For example, you're going to get like 5, 4, 2, 5 or something. You're going to get a lot of FE. So that is why it's actually quite important. So you have to look out for those cards. Do remember that down here you have like this reroll sign. That basically means that you can reroll the trade cards. So if you have only shitty trade cards, reroll here. Good trade cards are like drop quantity, extra FEs like okay, embers are okay. But if you get anything related to Nightmare, that's probably going to be strong. And that is about it from Timemark 8.0. After 8.0, the world is your oyster. And even on 8.0, you can experiment around. There's a ton of viable strategies. Like I said, I don't want to make this seem like this is the best. I just really like this mechanic. If you have a certain drop quantity pet that you dropped in a season, or you got lucky this league or whatever, you can do cube everything. Everything is money starting at 8.0. Now, let's talk about general tips. This is basically just a discussion. So, this league is very hard. There is no reason you should be saving anything you have. If you're like, oh, I think this will go up, I'm just gonna... No, you don't sit on anything. You have to understand. Even if you're like, oh, I dropped an ultimate ember, it's worth like 4 FE, but I might need it later. Sell it. Everything needs to be sold. You need to reinvest everything into your build. Every bit of damage you have and everything you can progress from 7.0 to 7.1 to 7.2 is going to be an absurd increase in money. Like, you're going to make that money that you maybe lost on an investment in like 10 minutes back. It is that crazy. We have never, like, it was already crazy in the past, but this is like completely different. Everything you have, every crafting currency, put everything into your build. You need to go all in because this league is absolutely crazy with what kind of damage and defenses your build needs to have. So especially early, you need to be observant, knowing where to put your money. That means you know how to craft yourself. That means you look through legendary gear and you're like, oh, this would be a power spec. This costs like 3 FE. Next time I have free FE, I'm gonna buy it, and there you go. Right? You need to be observant. Then number 2, I'll say it again, league mechanic is incredibly strong. In tier 8s, do not waste your time with the league mechanic before. Maybe they buffed it now, try it out. But you're going to regret it later because a lot of the shards and the currency that you used for 7.2s, you could have made 10 times what you make later. But if it helps you out to progress, then sure, go for it. Hero memories. So that's another thing. A lot of people have told me, when should I start investing my currencies? If you look right here, right? You can invest this currency to level up your base stat. And once you're at certain level breakpoints, for example, me next level, I would actually get another mod here, and at level 50, I get to upgrade my hero traits, right? But people are like, my hero memory is not very good, so why would I invest into it? Just so you understand, you cannot waste it. When you recycle a hero memory later, you get all the shards that you spent back. So there is no wasting there. Invest everything, once again, get stronger, then later vendor it, right? Like, or recycle it, and you get all your stuff back. Really important to know. Then you're going to see certain bases on the auction house where you're like, this is almost too good to be true. So I will show you an example. Your gear will absolutely suck, right? You will have like tier 3 mods and tier 2 mods. That is mostly what you can do with Flame Sand, and they're almost free. You should be crafting, but you will be looking at trade and you're like, oh my god, I could buy this one right here with a tier 1 mod, and then I just craft the rest, right? Wrong. Everything, I think, above level 83, although I might be wrong here. I know that 86 is... I think that 86 is where it starts. Costs FE to craft. Your Flame Sand is completely useless. Look at this. If I wanted to craft this one right here, for example, it would cost me 1 FE per roll. A 200 will cost you double. And advanced affixes, which I can show you here, even cost 3. So all this worthless Flame Sand all of a sudden becomes FE, which you're going to have to pump probably 100 to 200 FE per item. For example, this item here that I crafted costed me around about 100 to 150 FE to craft. At some point, it's worth it, but it's not the first thing you should target. So TLDR, early on, if your item has that you want to buy has a tier 1 mod, stay away from it. That means it's I-86. After that, path of progression is kind of buggy. So up here, you have the path of progression, which is very important. You can unlock a lot of stuff. You unlock star talents, which are your passive points for your Atlas tree. You get extra respec points, which you can sell, right, and whatnot. But what you need to know is they have certain phases. And there are certain completions that do not count until you get to that phase. So you have to kind of click through them, kind of look at what you have to complete next. It's very buggy, and I still don't know if it actually works as it's supposed to. For example, I have already corroded a massive amount of legendary gear, but when I did corrode them, I was still in this phase, and it doesn't credit you after, but some are credited. So basically what I'm saying is click through this path of progression as often as you can, and if you only have one thing left to complete, then just complete it real quick. You need to understand how strong these bonuses are. They give you like permanent bonuses, like additional ember drop rate, additional flame elementium drop rate. Like, it's completely broken. If you don't click through it, you're really missing out quite a bit. Speaking about missing out quite a bit, this is a mistake that I made. The boss conquest is incredibly strong. So look at this right here. So I already completed up to, I think, 1,480 or whatever this was. Basically, you're facing this big enemy, and the more oftentimes you can kill him, the more rewards you get. So right here, there's like a ranking, and you start out with like Flame Sand and everything, right? Precious Embers. These are super good early, right? You're gonna need them all. But at some point, you're actually gonna get like 10 stacks of FE. These are soulbound, which means you can only use them for crafting, but still, you can make some crazy items like the ones I just showed you with tier 1 mods. And I think when I first did this boss, I didn't realize, and all of a sudden I had like 130 FE for crafting, and I could basically make 1 or 2 items that almost doubled my damage. So do this as early as you can. Early on, you're not going to get far. I think my first try was like 200, 300, and at some point you're going to get into the FE stages, and then you can kind of snowball. And then at the end, this is something I say every league, but this league is way more important than usual. Do not despair. This game is very snowbally. So the way my trajectory went is after day 1, I had round about, I think, 6-7 million damage. After day 2, I had like 400 million, and after day 3, I was in the billions. That is how this game works. There's so many systems. If you think, oh, I'm sitting on like 3 million, I will never get there, you will. Use everything you have. Use the slates. Upgrade your hero memories. Upgrade your mods. Stuff like this, for example, right? Like, that's sloppy. I could have these on tier 1, probably for pretty cheap. This on tier 1. If I increased everything I have here, all the damage mods, I would probably deal another 40-50% more damage, which currently I'm sitting on like 8 billion. That would get me to like 12-13 billion. There's so many multipliers in this game, right? You just kind of have to know what you're doing. And like I said, the most important thing is reinvest everything you have. Do not hoard anything. Immediately onto the trade house once you have space again. But that's about all I got. I will be making a video about the league mechanic, which I actually very much enjoy. I'm super happy that at least the league mechanic is quite good. And at some point, I'm also going to drop my thoughts about the league once everything has settled a little bit more. I am currently sitting at Timemark 8. 8-1, with 8-2 being probably in the cards very soon. I can already kind of do it, but it is a little bit of a struggle, especially defensively. So that's where I'm currently at. I'm going to try to push into Profound, but in order to get to Profound, I will need a lot more damage, around about 5 times the damage I'm currently doing. So we're talking about like 50+ billion damage. And Deep Space, I'm not even thinking about. So yeah, the balancing this league is completely nuts. If you are discouraged this league, I completely understand, but I just want to tell you that there is still a lot of fun to be had. It's just quite a bit delayed. But hope I could help you out a little bit with this video. Maybe it helped you out on your path to having fun again. And since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.